Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, in today's video, I wanted to talk about the upcoming Second American Civil War. And I do call it the upcoming Second American Civil War because it is absolutely going to happen. The United States has balkanized, and through that balkanization, through that separation that we are seeing happening now, and I believe we have already reached the point of no return culturally. Now, I had a viewer in the comment section request that I review another video, another content provider, and it is Mansour Z, and the video that he produced is why the right can't win. And what he means by that, why the right can't win a civil war, a second civil war. Now, he believes that the right, the conservative element in the United States, can't win, largely due to the systems of governance, specifically the military. Mansour Z believes that the military has been essentially subverted by the left and would assist the Democrat Party, whatever left-wing ideology that controls the country, in suppressing rebellion by the right. That is where he is incorrect. And as I listened to him, and I'm not sure if he is a synthesized AI-generated voice or that's really him. It's difficult to say at this point. But I don't believe that he has served in the military. I could be wrong on that. He seems to be coming from a more academic position. And I also don't believe that he has served in government. Now, I can tell you from firsthand experience, not just military. I've served in the U.S. military, and I've also served in the U.S. government for a governmental agency. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And I want to talk about one specific incident that recently happened. And this is going to show you why some of these governmental agencies, especially the military, will not follow what the military perceives as an unlawful order. Or even if it was a semi-lawful order that involved the U.S. military directly engaging the citizenry of the United States. I don't think you would see that. A couple of different reasons. Well, the reality is there's probably a lot of different reasons. But first and foremost, we have had recent examples where internal U.S. law enforcement agencies have refused the orders of the federal bureaucracy, of the civilian leadership in the White House. I'm not going to talk about the agency. I'm not going to disclose the agency. Again, this is something that was or has never really been reported by the mainstream media. A agency in question, a governmental agency, was required to take the COVID-19 vaccine. This agency essentially rebelled and said, no, we're not going to take it. There were threats. There were threats of sending home those individuals that would not take the COVID-19 vaccine. The vast majority of personnel in this agency refused to take it. And they said, go ahead, send us home. Get someone else to do our job. And I can tell you, and you may be able to figure out what agency this could be on your own, and that's fine. But it is a job that very, very few in the civil sector, even in the law enforcement sector, would want to come in and do this role. In the government, the White House, the DOJ, the leadership backed down. They basically said, well, we're not going to talk about this. If you don't want to get the jab, then fine, you don't have to get the jab. Because they knew they couldn't backfill those positions. They couldn't bring in enough resources to cover all the walk-offs that would have happened. They just couldn't have done it. And that's one example. Another issue is that the U.S. military is not confined to barracks. It's not like other militaries around the world in some cases. Many in the military live inside of the community. Many, most. Furthermore, you really have to break down the military of the United States in two distinct categories: combat arms and non-combat arms. Non-combat arms have joined the military for the benefits of the military. It could be supply, it could be anything. Then you have combat arms. Combat arms personnel, infantry, armor, special operations forces, what have you, those forces have joined the military for a more ideological reason. They're patriots, most of them. I would say that in excess of between 70 and 95% of U.S. combat arms gravitate towards the conservative right. And this is where this Mansour Z guy is really getting it wrong. Again, he sees the military as this absolute entity that will support the civilian government no matter what. Hey, go crush this uprising in East Texas. Roger that. They move out, they go do it. That's not what would happen. There would be a great deal of dissent depending on what would happen and how it would happen. The U.S. military just wouldn't deploy and do exactly as they're told internally against the United States, against the citizens of the United States who may or may not be in rebellion. And that's absolute. Now, on the non-combat arms side, that could be a little different. Not a lot different, but a little different. But if you look at especially the Special Operations Command, the teams, the SEAL teams, look at the Green Berets, the Rangers, Delta Force. These individuals are very patriotic, and they inherently tilt towards the right by a very, very large majority. The SEAL teams probably 95% gravitate towards the right body politic. And I think that's what this Mansour Z is getting wrong, or doesn't fully understand. It's not going to be this absolute, I'm given an order and I'm going to go execute that order and not question that order whatsoever. I would envision that if you start to look at the large law enforcement agencies, and this is going to be an issue as well for some of these larger law enforcement agencies, the FBI, ATF, even non-law enforcement, CIA. They're there because they want to work in law enforcement, and a lot of them are patriotic, but a lot of them are there because they're comfortable. They have very comfortable jobs, very comfortable roles. And this just isn't for law enforcement. This is other elements of the federal bureaucracy. They're there because it's comfortable. It's difficult to get fired. You have good benefits. You make decent money. And that is the catch-22. Because if things start to fall apart, the U.S. currency is going to collapse. I mean, we're getting to a point right now where the debt is eventually going to destroy the dollar. Or they're going to have to come up with some other currency, or something is going to happen. There's going to be civil strife around the U.S. currency. And therein lies the problem. These federal jobs that provide this absolute shell of protection in terms of livelihood, right? You know you're going to get a paycheck. But if the system breaks down and people aren't getting paid, how many in this government bureaucracy are going to stay on the job? What's going to happen? So therein lies the crux of the issue. In the onset of the Second American Civil War, and I've talked about I'm developing a book on this very subject, I envision that this conflict will not be state versus state. In some cases it will be, but it will also be county versus county. If you look at the first American Civil War, and you look what happened in Missouri. Essentially, in Missouri, it was a civil war within a civil war. You had northern counties, and then you had Confederate counties. And this would happen on a very, very large scale throughout the United States, even in California, where you inherently believe that California would side with the progressive left. But out here in northeastern California, they're some of the most diehard conservatives, right-wing folks that you'll ever meet. And those guys are going to fight. So again, even within California, you'll see this play out. You'll see it happen. But again, in regards to this Mansour Z's video, the military will not just absolutely pick a side. In all probability, it's going to sit on the sidelines as long as it can. And that inherently is going to also erode the force, because people within the military are going to start to pick sides. And especially within the sphere of combat arms, a lot of them are going to gravitate right. They just are. I promise you. Also, within the federal bureaucracy itself, especially law enforcement agencies. I know there is a lot of heat on the FBI and how it has conducted itself, but there are other agencies. There are local law enforcement agencies. Many of these individuals who work for these agencies do not agree with what's going on and would not take a side, especially in putting down any sort of conservative rebellion in the United States, especially if there was reason to believe that the election was meddled with. And a lot of people, even in law enforcement, and I promise you this, believe the election was meddled with in the last election. That's happened. It is happening. So that's my take on the Mansour Z video. Why? What was the exact title? Why the right can't win. So again, I don't know this guy's background. He sounds like he comes from academia, and he's not very familiar with the military and the interworkings of the military. But you folks out there who served in the military, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it just would not turn into this machine of suppression against the American people. Again, likely it sets on the sidelines. It loses capability as the Civil War escalates, because people are inside the military are going to pick sides and eventually take those sides. And right now, most, at least the combat arms, are not supporting the left wing of the United States. More to come on this subject. As always, have a good day.